On the air.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm okay, and yourself?
I'm doing good.
Good. Tuesday?
Yeah. It is. Made it through Monday?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Not without too much trouble.
Yeah. Every day I struggle with technology.
Oh, me too. You know, sometimes I was just talking to someone the other day about how I have not set foot in a law library in years.
Oh, right.
But when I started practicing law, I spent a ton of time in the
Sure.
library.
In the actual libraries.
Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Hello.
And I kind of miss those books.
Yeah. Well, I have books at my house.
So do I. Oh. Yeah.
Online. I go, pick up my book and go.
Yeah. I have my Kindle and I just order something and there it is.
Yeah.
What's your last book? I don't have to leave the house.
What's the last book you read?
I've been reading the series of detective novels. Harry Bosch is the character.
Oh, yeah.
Michael Connelly is the author.
Right. He's been
And
writing.
I've read about 15 of them in a row.
He's just a prolific writer.
Which writer?
Michael Connelly.
Conway. I read a lot of Conway. He's dead now, but Conway was a great writer. Wrote The Great Santini and Red Tide. I had a chance to meet him. I got the book signed by him. It's kind of cool. I just finished, what's the last book I wrote? I finished was one about Vietnam. Can't remember the name. It's written by the guy that lives in Colorado Springs. It was on the bestseller list, New York bestseller list.
Yeah.
And then I wrote the there's one FBI director, former FBI director was fired.
Oh, yeah.
This one, Loyalty.
Yeah.
A little self-serving.
Well, of course. But interesting, I'm sure.
Oh, fascinating. He worked for Giuliani. When Giuliani was not, did not suffer from Alzheimer's disease. He's really lost it.
Yeah.
But he was during the 70s and 80s. He was just one of the big mafia guys. Worked with them on mafia as an FBI agent on mafia.
Oh,
Very
okay.
interesting.
Yeah. What was his name?
I'm ordering Fear. That's the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning. I'd like to call to order the public meeting of the Arapahoe County Board of County Commissioners for October 23rd, 2018. To my left is Ron Carl, the county attorney. To my far right is Gail Stumpo, the assistant clerk to the board. Ms. Stumpo, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Jackson. Here. Commissioner Holland.
Here.
Sharp. Here. Commissioner Conti. Good morning. Good morning. Commissioner Baker.
Here. Commissioner Holland, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Carl, are there any modifications to the agenda this morning?
Yes, there's a request to pull item 6B from the consent agenda, and that will be put back on your agenda at a later date.
Are there any questions or comments about that? Seeing none, we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. Are there any other questions from commissioners or questions that need to be answered before we have a motion to adopt the items on the agenda?
I so move.
Second.
Clarification is that as modified?
As modified.
And the second?
Second.
As modified.
As modified, yes.
All right. So we have a motion from Commissioner Holland to accept the items on the agenda as modified, and a second by Commissioner Conti. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. This is the citizen comment period. If there are any citizens here that would like to address the Board of County Commissioners on any non-agenda items, please make yourself known, and I see no citizens here today. We have 4 sets of minutes to approve. The first sets of minutes, public meeting minutes, are from September 4th, 2018. And Commissioner Sharp was absent and excused at that. Are there any questions or concerns about those minutes? I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Conti, seconded by Commissioner Holland. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? And 1 abstention. The second set of minutes is from September 11th, 2018. In that case, both Commissioners Jackson and Sharp were absent and excused. Are there any questions or comments? I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Conti, seconded by Commissioner Holland. All in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? 2 abstentions on that one. The next set of minutes that we have to approve are from September 25th. We did have, September. Hang on a minute. Did I get those out of order? Yeah. The ones that we just approved were from September 11th, correct? And that was with, now we're moving on to September 18th. We did have a full board. Any questions or comments?
I'll move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Sharp, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? See none. That motion carries. The next set of minutes that we have to approve are from September 25th. And again, we had a full board. Any
Approval. Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Sharp, seconded by Commissioner Conti. All in favor? Aye. Those minutes are approved. Are there any questions about any of the items on the consent agenda this morning? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve our consent agenda
as
as modified.
Motion made by Commissioner Conti, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. All in favor?
Aye.
The items on the consent agenda are approved. Any abstentions or objections? We have one public hearing this morning, one general business item, and this is the 2019 budget. The presenter is going to be Todd Weaver, the budget manager from the Department of Finance, and our attorney on this matter is John Christofferson, the Deputy County Attorney. Mr. Christofferson, would you please lay the foundation for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The purpose of this item today is to hear a presentation of the 2019 budgets, open a public hearing for public comment, and then continue the public hearing until December 11, 2018, at which time the board will consider adoption of the 2019 budgets. The record should reflect that notice of the proposed 2018 budgets was published in the October 18, 2018 issue of the Villager newspaper. Therefore, this board, and acting as the ex officio board of the Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater Public Improvement District, have jurisdiction to hear the 2019 budgets. Mr. Weaver, budget manager, will present these matters.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Weaver.
Good morning, board. I'm here today to present the contents of the 2019 recommended budget. That was submitted to the Board of County Commissioners at a public hearing on October 9th, and then presented to the Board of County Commissioners the significant points within that budget on study session, or in a study session on October 16th. The information I have for the presentation today is the exact same as at that study session. And seeing no citizens, I'll move through the slides relatively quickly since it is a review. The main goals for the 2019 budget from the Executive Budget Committee in putting together the contents included continuing with a structurally balanced budget in the general fund regarding the operating budget, maintaining our county's total compensation philosophy, focusing on Align Arapahoe goals for the budget recommendations that are contained therein, continuing to emphasize the process improvement efforts and efficiencies across the county, and remaining mindful of long-range budget needs in preparing the 2019 budget. Just some quick budget facts and figures for the 2019 recommended budget. Total revenues across all funds is just under $402 million. The total expenditures across all funds, $413.2 million. Those are both about a 6% increase over 2018. In the general fund, we're looking at $192.1 million in revenues, offset by $202.7 million in expenses. Each of those are approximately a 7% increase over 2018. When we pull out one-time expenses, what is recommended is $191 million in ongoing revenues and $189.9 million in ongoing expenses, thereby resulting in a $1.1 million operating budget surplus. Staffing in total is 2,222.9 FTEs. That's up 83.5 FTEs. It does include some 2018 supplementals that came in rather late in the fiscal year, including 18 FTEs on behalf of Human Services. In the general fund, there's 1,327.65 FTEs. That is up 60 from 2018 as well. The estimated ending 2019 general fund balance is estimated to be $41.3 million if all the revenues are collected as proposed and all the expenses are spent as recommended. That's a $10.5 million use of fund balance. The total net assessed value for the county on which we base our property taxes for 2019 are $10.4 billion. That's up only 1.3% from 2018, mainly due to the fact that the 2018 assessment year for 2019 is not a reappraisal year. It's just an interim year. The mill levy estimated at this point will be 13.258 mills. That's under our 15.821 maximum mill levy allowable. The temporary tax credit for 2019 will be 2.647 mills. And the capital improvement program budget includes $13.7 million in projects. That's up about $200,000 from 2018. The structurally balanced budget is a good thing for Arapahoe County. It reflects our fiscal responsibility and the fact that we're not going to budget beyond our means. It enhances our financial sustainability and reserves that use of fund balance for one-time items such as capital projects, equipment, and other capital assets. As I said earlier, the current operating fund or operating budget for the general fund is balanced with a $1.1 million surplus. As you can see from that graphic right there, what makes the expenditures higher than the revenues is the use of one-time fund balance for capital project transfer, as well as equipment and other one-time uses within that general fund. The one-time use of fund balance is $10.5 million. To give you an idea of how that surplus stacks up with prior years, last year it was $1.6 million. In 2017, 16, and 15, it was under $500,000. Revenue trends going into 2019. The trend right now for 2018 into 2019 is a positive one. Revenues up $23.7 million over the prior year adopted budget. A considerable portion of that is in the general fund, $12.5 million. Property taxes are up $5.5 million. Specific ownership tax up $1 million. Tax collection fees and interest earnings up $1.5 million. Another considerable revenue is the revenue that will be coming in from the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Centennial for law enforcement services based on the request the Sheriff's Office has made of the city at $3.5 million. And then development-related fees and charges up $130,000 over 2019. The next graphic depicts how the revenue has increased, kind of accelerating as we've recovered from the recession. The recession kind of reflected on this chart between 2010 and 2014 or 15 timeframe. And then you can see how the revenue increases have accelerated between 2016 and 2019. The big jump in 2019, once again, is that $3.5 million that's coming in from the City of Centennial if they approve all the requests that the sheriffs have put forward. On the property tax side, total actual value $93.5 billion, up about 1.6%. As I said, the assessed value is up about 1.3%. The number there that helps our property tax increase is the actual value of new construction. That is $1.4 billion for 2018 for 2019 collections. That's a 21% increase over 2018's total of $1.2 billion. That's by far the largest amount of new construction the county has had in the past 2 decades. When we go down to that local growth calculation for our property tax, the CPI we're using right now is 3.1. The actual growth in new construction is 1.53, giving us a 4.63% growth in our property tax for 2019. All of that will change when we get final assessed values from the assessor in December. Here's a graphical depiction of the assessed value and the new construction amount. You can see how 2019 stacks up with prior years. Once again, it's that stair step when the actual value between the assessment years, the reassessment years, and the interim years. On the assessed value side, you can see it changes a little bit. 2020 and 21 are down a little bit from 18 and 19. That's due to the projected drop in the residential assessment rate that's been forecast by the Legislative Council. The revenue, you can see, has a steady growth to it. As long as inflation and new construction stay within that 4.5% range, we can grow that revenue at 4 to 4.5%, unless we run out of temporary tax credits. So the effect of the residential assessment rate drop is that we use a portion of that temporary tax credit, such as in 2019, where it went from almost 3.1 mils of a credit to about 2.6 mils of a credit. The projected mill levies, you can see the general fund is looking at 13.258. That'll generate $136.8 million. That is up about $6.2 million over 2018. $5.5 million of that's in the general fund. For the Development of Disability, Law Enforcement Authority, Recreation District Fund, and for the PID, they're relatively modest increases in assessed value, a little bit higher for the Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater Public Improvement District. But that only pays for the required debt service within that fund. That mill levy will drop from 14.96 down to 14.4 mils. In the general fund, you can see that we ended 2017 with a $5.9 million addition to fund balance. It took it from about 50.8 up to $56.7 million in the fund balance. For 2018, we're projecting and spending down just under $5 million. That would take it from 56.7 down to 51.9, which is our starting point for 2019. When you factor in the 192 in revenue and the 202 in expense, that results in a $10.5 million spend down of that fund balance, bringing it from 51.9 down to 41.3. When you take out the mandatory 11% reserve of 21% or $21 million, which includes the 3% TABOR reserve, that leaves about $20.3 million available for appropriation in future years in that reserve. The operating budget trend, up until about 2015, it was relatively stagnant and flat. You can see as the revenue growth has returned, the operating budget has increased. The gray part of that bar in that chart reflects the one-time uses of fund balance. You can see that as the revenue has returned and the capital needs have grown, the one-time uses of fund balance in the general fund have grown as well. Vacancy savings reductions plays a large part in the ability of the county to balance its operating budget. We take out an amount from department personnel budgets of salary and benefit costs that historically have not been spent due to the fact that there's positions that come and go. Obviously, turnover is a part of operations of any organization. And we have subtracted 2% of that personnel budget for all departments and an additional 1.25% for those departments and offices that are over 50 FTE. You can see that in 2014, when the vacancy savings reduction went up, There was very little, if any, vacancy savings above what we reduced. The same can be said about 2015 and 16. As the job market has improved dramatically, it's been harder to recruit and fill some of those positions. Therefore, even though we are taking out about the same amount for vacancy savings in 2017 and 18, the amount that is unspent above that reduction has increased as well. The total compensation philosophy was presented in a study session in August by Human Resources. It includes compensation, benefits, work-life balance, performance recognition, development, and career opportunities. The 2019 recommendations include merit increases, law enforcement step program progressions, market-based salary structure adjustments, health insurance premium renewals, and variable pay to deal with that specific or those specific hard-to-recruit positions due to the current job market. Right now, what's included in the recommended budget is a 3.55% merit increase. During the study session last week, the board has asked us to look at doing a 3.3% increase in the merit. We will make those adjustments before the board reviews it again in November. Prior merit increases in 2018 were 3.5, 2017 3.0, 2016 the same, and then you can see in 2015 and 2014 the amounts were less as we were still recovering from the recession at that point. The law enforcement step progressions are also recommended. That's budgeted about $448,000, about $390,000 in the general fund. Market structure adjustments. The Human Resources Department does an analysis of the positions and tries to match them up with other positions within the market through the Mountain States Employers Council data. There's a number of positions and employees that match up closely with those other positions. In the past, we have moved those ranges a certain percentage and made adjustments to those employees who were swept up by the bottom of the range. In this year's budget, HR is recommending that we move everybody within that range to 2.1%. The last time we did that was 2016's budget. That will total about $2.5 million across all funds and $1.4 million in the general fund. There's also market increases applied to the law enforcement step program. That will result in $1.6 million additional in the 2019 budget, with $1.4 million of that in the general fund. Sworn management, same type of market increase, $54,000 for that group of employees, $52,000 in the general fund. This graphic shows the amount that we've added to our budget for just compensation as part of the total compensation philosophy the last few budget years. You can see for 2019, the bar is considerably taller than the prior years, mainly due to that 2.1%, that green part of that chart, that's moving everybody in the range in 2019. Packages that are included in the 2019 budget were kind of reviewed, and the line Arapahoe goals were kept in mind as some of those were selected for recommendations in the 2019 budget. When we focused on quality of life, obviously public safety is an important component of that particular goal for the county. The Sheriff's Office did have a number of requests for 2019. Some of the recommendations that were included in the 2019 budget were to fund 16 additional positions in a detention facility for coverage, 2 additional court services deputies for a new courtroom that will open in 2019. They funded or recommended funding 8 of 16 patrol positions for the unincorporated county, 2 additional communication dispatch positions. One of those 2 positions will be funded by the 911 authority. Funding for additional positions in the regional crime lab and a school resource officer sergeant position. Funding for the behavioral health response program, including 1 position, and then as we talked about a little bit earlier in the presentation, requests for the city of Centennial total about $3.4 million. That includes about 23 FTE for patrol, investigations, communications, community resources, and the regional crime lab. The total sheriff's office positions that are recommended in the 2019 budget are 53. Of those, 30 are for the county and 23 are for the city of Centennial. The Tri-County Health Department, public health is also a portion of the quality of life goal. Their increase in the per capita rate was relatively modest, along with the statutory population increase resulted in a $64,000 increase to their budget. The district attorney had requests that totaled $837,000. That included population changes, salaries and benefits, staffing for the new courtroom and for the regional crime lab, additional domestic violence team, and an increase in the operating budget line items for some technology, electronic storage, and other operating items that they require. Transportation is also part of quality of life. $6.35 million in capital funding is funded for road construction projects in 2019, and just under $17 million is in the road and bridge budget. Flipping over to Service First, the Communication and BOCC Administration reorganization is requesting 1 new position for a public information officer and $210,000 not only to fund that position, to do some of the other reclassifications and adjustments for the merging of those 2 departments. The Clerk and Recorder's Office has $250,000 for election costs. Replacing the motor vehicle queuing system, an additional one-time overtime for the drive system, about $200,000. Preservation of public documents, $100,000, and to continue the temporary waiver of part of the motor vehicle kiosk fee, about $100,000. Community Resources is also requesting an additional pretrial navigator position for a program that began in the past year in order to increase the number of clients served. That's one FTE and about $78,000. Public Works, some additional positions were funded for public improvement inspections as well as traffic. There's also funding for budget and overtime in the building division due to a higher workload. Open spaces and intergovernmental relations, there's 2 positions for maintenance of some properties within the recreation district, as well as due to the additional square footage, additional need for a fairgrounds event technician for setup and tear down of events in that facility. Human Resources, through the low renewal in our health insurance rates, have asked for $100,000 of that savings to be used to fund an increase to the wellness program budget within their department. Fiscal responsibility, the Executive Budget Committee did request a reduction in the proposed CIP plan through deferring 2 projects from 2019 that totaled about $1.5 million. That was an effort to reduce the amount of fund balance drawn down in the general fund. During the study session on the 16th, the board has asked us to look at other ways to reduce that drawdown of fund balance in the general fund, and those efforts are in progress right now. As part of the Sheriff's Office package recommendations, the crime lab positions that were added in 2018 to the Law Enforcement Authority Fund were removed from the Law Enforcement Authority Fund and put into the general fund, and those 2 slots were filled with additional patrol officers that were funded as part of that recommendation for 8 positions. A number of other packages were either not recommended or reduced from their original amounts. We did request and receive information from departments and offices regarding past, present, and future operational efficiencies and process improvements as part of the budget submissions. The staffing chart shows a dramatic growth from 2018 to 2019. The main part of that is the number of positions that are added in the Sheriff's Office, as well as those 18 positions for Human Services that were approved as part of 2018's budget. If you take out the Human Services and the Centennial positions, the true addition to county staffing for county purposes is about 42.5 positions in 2019 that are not part of the 2018 budget. The long-range budget issues. Obviously, the county has spent some time looking at future needs that we may have. That includes improvements in the expansion of the current detention facility, the Justice Center complex, transportation infrastructure, both maintenance and construction, and then balancing those issues against future operating budget needs. A number of the requests in 2019's budgets tie into that. In the 2019 budget, the pavement budget or maintenance budget for Road and Bridge, they had requested an additional $650,000 be used from Senate Bill 1801. That was recommended. The other $650,000 that came as part of that $1.3 million from Senate Bill 1801 will be used in the capital expenditure fund for road projects for the ILF Avenue corridor. They had also requested about another $1 million for gravel maintenance as well as pavement maintenance in the Road and Bridge Fund. In 2018, the Executive Budget Committee shifted some revenue for specific ownership tax to the Road and Bridge Fund and had absorbed some of the equipment replacement costs. No such recommendation was made in 2019, and so therefore that additional $1 million in gravel and pavement maintenance was not funded in 2019's budget. The detention facility has a number of maintenance and upkeep needs to its infrastructure. Foremost among those is a $3.1 million project that began in late 2018 and will continue with the lion's share of the funding coming in 2019. That's $3.1 million to replace and upgrade the facility's door control and intercom system. There was $377,000 funded in 2018, plus the 3.1 makes that about a $3.5 million project. As continued from the 2018 budget, the significant maintenance issues at the facility, including plumbing, electrical, and other infrastructure. The current 30-year-old facility, Facilities and Fleet Management, brought forward a recommendation to fund about $7.5 million over the next 5 years to address those issues. 2018's budget contained $1.5 million. 2019's budget contains $1.7 million to continue those efforts. Overall, in the capital improvement program, there's $13.7 million funded. Notwithstanding the projects I already talked about, there's also an additional $1.7 million for the ILF Avenue improvements, another $1.5 million for the 6th Avenue Crossing Road project, $1.2 million for the Peoria Salt Dome condition assessment proposal. That was 2018's project. 2019 is actually replacing that salt dome with a new one. There's a number of other projects on the list there that are included in the 2019 capital improvement program, and I can answer any questions on those if you have those. Currently, the CIP committee is going back and reviewing that list to see if there are any projects that can be deferred to 2020 to reduce that burden on the general fund balance. There's a chart showing the 2018 through 2022 capital improvement program. You can see that the totals in those for those projects hover between $13 and $18 million per year. Obviously, with only about $5 million in recurring revenue that goes into the capital expenditure fund from property tax and specific ownership tax, that $8 million gap has to come from somewhere else. In the past, it has come from the general fund. That is the chart on the right. The goldenrod portion of that bar chart shows the amount that is transferred from the general fund. You can see that amount has increased from 2013 through 15 to larger amounts in 2016 through 19. Just quickly reviewing the general fund, the 2019 recommended budget starts with about $51.8 million in fund balance when you add in $191 million in ongoing revenue. Add another $1.1 million in one-time revenue, you get $192.1 million in revenue, offset by about $190 million in ongoing expenses, with about $12.8 million in one-time uses. So therefore, the operating budget is balanced with a $1.1 million surplus, but does use $10.5 million in fund balance for that transfer of the capital fund, all the equipment that goes along with a lot of the FTs that are approved in the general fund and other one-time uses such as election costs and so on and so forth. We would end the year with $41.8 million or $41.3 million in fund balance. That said, in 2018, we expect that we will probably have more savings in the expenditure side, and we'll have some additional revenue coming in as a transfer from the social services fund at third quarter. Therefore, we believe that we will start the year with more than $51.8 million in 2019. The percent of the general fund budget expended. You can see prior to 2014, we spent about 95% of the general fund. Since then, we've consistently been above 96% spent in the general fund. Other major fund, the Social Services Fund, is roughly balanced with a $400,000 deficit. Once again, 80% of that fund is reimbursed from the state of Colorado. It's very hard to project what they will or won't reimburse, and especially since they're on a different calendar year than our current budget. So we don't quite know what we'll get for the second half of 2019 until early in 2019. So we're not concerned about that deficit at this point. Their fund balance will remain above the sort of agreed upon level of $8.5 million. For the Law Enforcement Authority, there is a $700,000 deficit. In the past, historically, they've had about $300,000 to $400,000 of their adopted budget that does not get spent. That additional $300,000 to $400,000 deficit for right now is manageable. Unfortunately, with the drop in the residential assessment rate in 2020, this deficit will grow, and then if that continues on, we will have a structural deficit issue for the Law Enforcement Authority that we'll have to address. In the Road and Bridge Fund, they've kind of kept pace with what we've been able to give them. $16.7 million in revenue offset by $16.9 million in expense. They would tell you they would need more funding for pavement maintenance. That is not included in the 2019 budget except for the Senate Bill 1801 funds. Their fund balance will remain above the policy reserve by about $1 million in 2019. Capital Expenditure Fund, $13.8 million. It can only spend what we give it, therefore it is balanced. The Recreation District has a mill levy and various revenues that go in there to pay for their $1.2 million operating budget. And the Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater Public Improvement District, $9.5 million in revenue offset by $9.6 million in expense. That's $2.7 million in the fund balance down to $2.6. There's a mandatory bond reserve of $1.2 million. We keep about another $1.4 million in there in the event that for some reason the federal government does not fund the subsidy that we got with the bonds that were issued in 2009. The next steps in the budget process, today is the public hearing. On November 20th, we will have a study session to review any changes to the 2019 budget as well as the third quarter budget review. And then on December 11th is the date we have set for the adoption of the 2019 budget and certification of the mill levies. Thanks to all the elected officials, department directors, and staff that helped develop the 2019 recommended budget. It's available on the county website and intranet. And if you have any questions about the contents of the 2019 budget, I'm happy to answer those at this time.
Questions, comments from the commissioners for Mr. Weaver? See none. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
And it's really on the CIP, the salt dome.
Yeah.
And I hadn't realized we were going to replace the salt dome. So hopefully we're going to have, is it going to be a dome again, or is it going to look a little bit different than?
I don't know specifically. I think
Maybe I could just find out.
we'll find out for you.
Curious.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that before, and I think that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. The study was conducted this year. I know next year's plans for construction. I don't know if they know enough about what they will be constructing yet, but I'll try to get an answer for you on that.
Okay. Just curious, because it is in the entrance to the airport out there, and I think aesthetics matter, and so we probably need to try to figure out how to do that within budget, but something that is maybe looks a little bit better than what we've got today.
I will get an answer for you on that.
I will comment that when the Eastern Service Center was built out in my area, that project ended up winning an award for the Salt Dome that was constructed out there. So it may be, of course, that was several years ago. With technology, there could be new designs that would, but I think that our facilities and fleet management and the folks that use that, the Road and Bridge, would also agree with you that they need something very efficient, yet something that would be aesthetically pleasing for that location.
So really not too much with the budget, but it just was on my mind. But thank you very much. I know how hard you work on the budget, and really appreciate everything and the tremendous work that you go through trying to get all of these things pulled together for us to make good decisions. So thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Conti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I, too, would look forward to some more information regarding what's prompting the replacement of the salt dome, what, condition status and so forth, and what the new one is supposed to look like, et cetera. And also wanted to add my note of thanks to the staff and all the participants that went in to put together the budget. And thank you for all your hard work. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Weaver? Commissioner Holden.
Tom, I just add to the comments from my colleagues about the great work you guys do and how difficult it is to deal with the capricious nature of county commissioners.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson. Or I have to open up for a public comment.
Oh, okay. Well, me too, then.
I do want to open it up for public comment. I don't see anybody here from the public that would like to comment. So no one signed up, so I'm going to close. Actually, we're going to leave it open, correct? Okay, we're going to leave it open, so we're ready for a motion.
So, rather than the silly Me Too comment, which is taken on a new meaning these days, which I did not intend. Anyway, as part of the Executive Budget Committee, I do want to thank all of you for your hard work, and therefore I move to continue the public hearing for the 2019 recommended budgets for Arapahoe County, the Arapahoe Law Enforcement Authority, excuse me, and the Arapahoe County Recreation District, and acting as the ex officio board of the Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater Public Improvement District to continue the public hearing for the 2019 recommended budgets for the Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater Public Improvement District until December 11th, 2018 at 9:30 a.m., at which time the Board of County Commissioners shall consider whether to adopt the 2019 budgets and take further action as required by law.
Motion made by Commissioner Jackson, seconded by Commissioner Sharp. Any further discussion or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Seeing none, that motion carries. It's been continued, and the public has until December 11th at 9:30 to submit any comments or questions, which they can do through attending that hearing or by submitting comments to the Arapahoe County Finance Department. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That ends our general business items. Are there any commissioner comments this morning? Seeing none, we are in adjournment. I think that's right. Adjournment. We are adjourned. I just wanted John to check.
So now we are.
For Butterbird. No, I know that. But, yeah. We're 10:30 over in the other room.